Our next speaker, I would say lots of nice things about him, but I'm not going to because he's my brother, and that's just not how it works.
My name is John Green, and I have to find the clicker. Okay, the hard part is over. I like advertising. That's why I'm standing next to this gigantic Kia logo. If it weren't for sponsorships and advertising, two of my very favorite things, VidCon and YouTube, probably wouldn't exist. And also, I would not have found out about, via a YouTube pre-roll ad, the Dollar Shave Club, which has immensely improved the quality of my life. But I also have a lot of problems with the notion that advertising should be the primary funder for all creative projects on the internet. So I want to talk about some of those problems and also talk about some of the ways that I see moving forward. So for those of you who don't know, I am something called a nerd fighter. Thank you. Two people in the front. Oh, it's Julie and Martha. It's friends. The Nerd Fighter community is the community that grew up out of the videos that my brother and I started making back in 2007. We fight for nerds, and we celebrate intellectualism, and we seek to decrease world suck, as we call it, through a variety of projects, including, for instance, the Nerd Fighter Kiva group, which has loaned more than $2.7 million to entrepreneurs in the developing world, and also I didn't do much of it, but thanks. And also the Project for Awesome, which is YouTube's largest annual charity event, has this year raised more than $400,000 for charity in 48 hours. Sometimes Hank and I also make videos about giraffe sex. Those get a lot of views, but more on that in a second. If our videos were funded primarily by advertising, our projects would not work for two reasons. First, okay, I think that you should buy a Kia Optima. It is the highest rated midsize sedan. This is true, according to J.D. Power & Associates. It's cheaper, it's more reliable than its competitors. The hybrid version gets amazing gas mileage. Those are all true facts. However, you probably also know that VidCon is sponsored by that lovely car. And you can't help but wonder, you know, is John, as the co-founder of VidCon, saying that in part because Kia sponsors VidCon? By the way, about being the co-founder of VidCon, this has nothing to do with my talk. I want to tell you why I'm the co-founder of VidCon. In 2009, my brother Hank called me and he pitched me an idea. He said, I want to do a video conference and I'm going to call it VideoCon. And I said, that is a really good idea. You should do that, but you should call it VidCon. And that was my last contribution to this conference. I am the Sean Parker of VidCon. Oh, sorry, you got tired there. So because I have this financial tie to Kia, you kind of can't trust what I say when I say I like Kia. It's impossible to know. And I worry that in a larger sense, that way that brands have sometimes of getting in between the relationship of creators and their audiences can be really problematic, because my relationship with my audience is not the most valuable thing in my professional life. It's the only valuable thing in my professional life. Now, of course, these relationships are not always problematic. Tyler Oakley and Taco Bell are a match made in heaven, and I have never felt less close to Tyler in our relationship. When he tweets about his genuine passion for gorditas, I never question it, and it never feels outside of him or outside of Taco Bell. But you have to listen to your audience, and that goes both for creators and for advertisers. All right, secondly, if our work was funded primarily by advertising, it would be worse. YouTube's original content initiative provided the seed capital for our education channel Crash Course, for instance, which introduces AP-level topics in a variety of subjects, including history, biology, chemistry, literature. These videos are over 10 minutes long. They're frequently about like mitochondria or whatever, so it's not exactly viral video. The literature and history videos average about 300,000 views. The biology and chemistry ones average around 75,000. So the advertising-only model tells us to stop making videos about science and only make videos about literature and history. because they are 4 times more valuable. But in fact, they are not 4 times more valuable, and we know that because we see thousands of comments from students saying, I got a 5 on my AP chemistry test, thank you so much, or now I understand redox reactions, or something. I don't know anything about science. Meanwhile, over on our Vlogbrothers channel, the advertising incentives tell us clearly to stop making videos about economic reforms in Nepal and to only make videos about giraffe sex. But in comments, people tell us that understanding recent Nepalese history is actually more useful to them than, an endless series of giraffe sex videos. I actually had to make about a dozen videos about animal sex before I realized this, but if Hank and I had only made videos about the astonishing mating habits of the animal kingdom, it might have gotten billions of views, but I would like my audience less. And they would value my content less, even if they watched it more. And in the long run, that doesn't just make for a miserable life, it's also bad business. Because here's the thing, advertisers can mostly only value eyeballs. They're really good at measuring the value of an eyeball, but they are terrible, and they have always been terrible, at measuring the value of relationships. YouTube, and I think that this is something that we in the creator community tend to underappreciate, wants to do something more. They want viewers who connect and stay engaged and pay attention to what they're watching, but that actually turns out to be really hard to quantify. Like, you can measure how much of a video someone watches or whether they click the like button, but that doesn't really tell you how much the video mattered to them. I know from experience that it is possible to watch 12 or 13 straight minutes of a puppy walking on a treadmill. But I'm much more deeply influenced by spending 2 minutes with a ViHard video about abstract mathematics. If creators are incentivized only to create stuff that will appeal to the broadest possible audience, we will not have the best possible internet. We will have network television. And for me, the real question at the heart of this stuff is, do you care more about views or do you care more about viewers? I don't mean that as a value judgment in any way. Like, we need creators who are oriented toward maximizing their audience, but we also need creators who are oriented toward their viewers, even if it's a small community. If you care more about views, then ads measure the value of what you're doing perfectly. But if you care more about viewers, they don't. So here are my other ways. I believe that if a strong community builds up around your work and you're authentic and transparent in your relationship with them, they will support you. For instance, they will buy posters and t-shirts. This year, DFTBA Records, the merch and music company that my brother founded with YouTuber Alan Wistufka, will have more than $2 million in sales. And the royalties will go not only to famous people like Charles and Ali Trippi or Rhett and Link, but also to people you haven't heard of, like Valerie, the young woman who designed that. That picture of a mustachioed me with the caption of my favorite food has generated so much in royalties for Valerie that she is going to graduate from college in January with $0 in student loans, largely because of Pizza John. And strong communities will also support your other creations. We see this a lot within YouTube, like fans of Minute Physics made Minute Earth into an instant success. Fans of the Freddie W channel helped launch Video Game High School. Our community got behind shows that Hank has produced, like The Brain Scoop and the Lizzie Bennett Diaries, but it also happens across media. Downloading a PDF, I should have mentioned this at the start, I am not professionally a YouTuber or a person who names conferences. I am professionally a novelist. Okay. Downloading a PDF of my book, The Fault in Our Stars, is exactly as difficult as typing in The Fault in Our Stars PDF into Google and then clicking the first link. You can also type in The Fault in Our Stars download, The Fault in Our Stars pirated, or I wish to illegally download The Fault in Our Stars. It's true. My audience is tech savvy enough to, like, use Google, you know? And yet, The Fault in Our Stars has been on the New York Times bestseller list for 81 consecutive weeks. This week, my 4 novels, thank you. This week, my 4 novels are numbers 1, 4, 8, and 10 on the young adult bestseller list. And they're also bestsellers in the UK, Australia, Germany, and Brazil, which not coincidentally are the 4 nations other than the United States where our videos are most viewed. And I'm not alone in this either, but I want to make something clear. People don't buy my books because they have to. It's easier to download them. They buy them because they want to. But this is also happening with other writers. There are writers like Jackson Pierce and T. Michael Martin, Mike Falzone, and others who have converted their YouTube audiences into book buyers. And the same is happening in music. George Wansky was the pale kid who raps fast. Now he's touring the world with a hit album. We're starting to see similar phenomena in cosmetics and jewelry and fashion design and fitness and anything. And you don't need a ton of viewers to bring activation energy to your great ideas. I mean, books have a CPM over $1,000. And with viewer-driven projects, people will just support you directly and give you money. Now, I'm not talking about paywalls. There's a long-standing belief that people pay for things because they are forced to or threatened. Like, you can't watch the greatest football club in the history of the world unless you pay for cable. You can't download this One Direction song unless you pay for it, etc. I believe that there is a place for paywalls, but not when it comes to community-driven video. The problem with a paywall, from a business perspective, is that it limits your ability to find and develop, that's the wrong slide, it limits your ability to find and develop new audiences. But the bigger problem to me is a community problem. It creates tiers in your community. I don't want Nerdfighteria to be a tiered community. I don't want it to be about those who can afford to see the cool stuff and those who can't, even if it's only special fancy bonus content that goes behind the paywall. I certainly don't want Nerdfighteria to be a tiered community with the tiers based on ability to pay, because people who are struggling financially have enough trouble in their lives without having to feel like they can't fully be part of something that matters to them simply because they don't have money. So I'm not talking about paywalls. I'm talking about the radical notion of asking people to pay for something that they could just as easily get for free, which becomes less radical when you consider that public radio and television have been doing it for decades, and that in my own career as a writer, I've been doing it for years. We saw this work first on YouTube with The Brain Scoop, this natural history video series. The creators needed financial help to continue making the show, and so Brain Scoop fans donated tens of thousands of dollars in 1 week, despite the fact that the channel averages just 40,000 views per video. And there are new platforms that are emerging to help similar channels, like Patreon, where fans can choose to pay creators for each song or video or podcast they create. And there's also Subbable, the funding platform that Hank and I launched last week. Subbable allows people to subscribe to shows they love. There we go. To subscribe to shows they love for an amount of their choosing, including $0. It's also possible to make one-time payments, and then paid subscribers' contributions go into a perk bank. So for instance, if you subscribe to Crash Course at $10 a month, after 3 months you'll have $30, which you can then redeem for a signed poster. But all the subscribers, including those who don't pay, get access to email newsletters and Google Plus Hangouts and bonus material. Unlike Kickstarter or something, which exists to launch projects with an end date, we've built Subbable to fund projects as long as the audience wants the thing to exist. Crash Course got 40 million views last year. That paid for about 20% of its operating budget. And with its Google grant ending, we needed to make our own way forward. Rather than try to make the show sustainable by getting 5 times more views, launching, say, Crash Course's Guide to Animal Mating, we instead launched Subbable. And we asked our viewers to fund the show. Within 3 days, our monthly Subbable revenue was 300% of our monthly advertising revenue. Subbable has existed for 7 days now, I think. There are 2 shows on it. There's more than $30,000 in monthly subscriber pledges and more than $70,000 in total payments. Advertising may still be a part of Crash Course's future, just as corporate underwriting is a part of public broadcasting, but it's going to be a small part. Now, the success of Crash Course on Subbable may be replicable, and it may not, although CGP Grey launched yesterday and is already 175% funded. But I do know that the advertising model alone will not fund the quality and breadth of content we want to see online. There are some videos that you watch, and that's wonderful, but there are some videos that you're a part of. I've never felt like I'm making stuff for the Nerdfighter community. I've always felt like I was making stuff with them. And that's precisely why they support our work. We all understand that we cannot make this without each other's help. And this is true for thousands of creators. Like, my son is a big fan of this channel, Leo Kim Videos. Leo basically, his new videos get like a few thousand views a month, but he basically has this huge collection of thousands of Thomas the Tank Engine toys. And he painstakingly disassembles them to show us how they work. And then Henry and I watch the videos, and then we take his Thomases apart and put them back together. And with Leo, we learn about electric circuits and batteries and plastic molds and assembly lines. That isn't lean back entertainment. It's not even lean forward entertainment. It's collaboration. It's using video to live a more engaged, aware, and attentive life. Advertisers cannot value that effectively. But communities can, and I believe that if we give them the opportunity, they will. Thank you.